As the war in Iran rages, the question that really is concerning, I think, many Australians is the degree by which we should get involved. And there's lots of invitations to be involved, and whether or not getting involved would actually turn the Australian people against the Labor government. Now, I would suggest that it would also turn the Australian people against the Liberal Party if they were to support such an idea, which I understand Angus Taylor is. And there's plenty of warnings around, particularly in the mainstream media and particularly in The Guardian. So I'm going to take us first, though, to a video from the, what is she? She's Sharon Haskell, who's the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister in Israel. And this snippet is from X. And I guess it tells us all that we need to know about where Israel sits in relation to inviting other nations, particularly in this case Australia, to participate in the war. It would be catastrophic, it would be immoral, and it would be defeating and everything that we understand as Australians in terms of international law, and it would be supporting rogue states such as Israel and the United States. And it is time, and I've said this on many occasions before, it's time that we made a stance against the United States and Israel, that we stopped looking towards and being influenced by the Zionist Israeli government and the corrupt United States government under Donald Trump. We need to draw our line in the sand and let people know that this is not who we are and that we do not support either of these regimes. In the same breath, it's fair enough to say we don't support Iran either. Let's be clear about that. And I'm going to get a bit tired of trying to draw that distinction between Iran's crappy, United States is crappy, and so's Israel, compared to what's been happening in Gaza, which is a genocide. And my prediction is that the United States wants whatever is happening in Gaza and the destruction of the Palestinian people, they want the same for the Iranian people. Both policies are simply wrong. So here is the video that I'll play for you from X. It's not very long, it's only 19 seconds in fact, but it tells us all that we need to know about the Israeli government.
So my message to Australia is to wake up.
Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister telling 7 News it's time for Australia to join the war.
I would expect Australia, with its long history of defending humanity and freedom throughout many wars throughout our history, I would expect them to actually join forces as well.
So if we're going to, if we are well known for facing up to humanity, defending freedom of speech, defending human rights, I guess, then there's no way in the world we should ever stand up alongside Israel and the United States, because they are the antithesis. They are antithetic to everything we actually should believe in. And it's about time the Australian government made a stand against the horrible, horrible policies of the United States, and even more so, the horrible, disgusting individual, the yellow beast that tends to run American politics now, namely Donald Trump. So, in an article, so I'll just take you to a couple of articles from The Guardian, which explains this even further. As Australia becomes more integrated into the US military machine, can it avoid being dragged into war? And so my issue here is that we need to separate ourselves more and more from the United States and make a stand for humanity. The US-Israel war in Iran shows once again how deadly it is to be America's enemy, but also, and this is important, how very hard it is to be its friend. No stupid rules of engagement, no national, this is a quote incidentally, no national building quagmire, no democracy building exercise. Listen to this language. No politically correct wars. This, from the United States Secretary of War, is the conflict to which Australia now finds itself bound. It is a war rapidly spiraling out of anyone's control, escalating in scope and geographic spread. It is one Australia, despite government sophistry, has already been dragged into. This week has shown yet again how deadly it is to be America's enemy, but also how very, very hard it is to be friend. Everyone among the traditional US allies is discomforted by what has happened. Dr. Lachlan Strachan, former Australian High Commissioner, author of The Curious Diplomat, tells Guardian Australia, as the conflict that started with US and Israeli strikes on Iran last week darkened and spread to new countries, new regions, new theatres, because it's very clear that Trump has gone into this without a well-defined strategy about where he's going to end it. It is another unpredictable, egotistical, muscular policy which he's kind of dropped on everyone else. And I keep on thinking what Colin Powell used to say, if you break it, you own it. And also in The Guardian, Australia's shameless support for the US attack on Iran makes us gullible, duplicitous, or both. For Anthony Albanese, as well as Mark Carney and Keir Starmer, to go along with Trump and Netanyahu's cynical ploy negates any sense of moral authority we possess, a catastrophe for the rules-based order. The ease and spread with which Australia, along with Britain and Canada, fed in behind Donald Trump's attack on Iran was startling. For a country that is constantly trumpeting the essentiality of the international rules-based order in preserving global peace and stability, Australia is shameless in its ability to stride into the American slipstream. And to hide behind Iran's alleged possession of nuclear weapons, or at least its ability to produce them, as justification for the attacks and the obliteration of Iran's government leadership, portrays us as gullible, duplicitous, or both. Trump claimed that Iran's ability to construct nuclear weapons was destroyed last June. Truth or lie? It cannot be both. The claim that Iran had the ability to do so until last weekend was either true or false. It could not be both. So what exactly was the case for yet another unprovoked and illegal attack on Iran? The Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, whose visit to Australia begins today when this was written, which is a couple of days ago, also fell conveniently into line, as did the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, employing the same trope as Albanese. Carney said Canada's position remains clear. The Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East, as one of the world's worst human rights records, and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. For a national leader who called out Trump's bluster and bullying just a few weeks ago in Davos, Carney's comments were dismal, and I couldn't agree more, as much as I like Carney and some of the things he said about the United States. Impressive isn't usually word used to describe speeches in Australian Parliament. Descriptors like straightforward, partisan, and even workmanlike might be more appropriate for the state of things in Canberra. And if it's this reason, for this reason, it's Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's arrival this week lit the space up. The first was in a fireside chat at the Larry Institute, and I suggest people look at that. He's impressive, but despite the buzz around his prescription for our uncertain times, Australia actually isn't listening to what Carney has to say. For all his stylish diplomacy, both Labor and the Coalition appears to be pretending the rupture Carney has identified has not happened at all. And that's all I wanted to say about Carney. But the point is that at some point, Australia has to say, I'm not going to get involved in this war. I'm not going to listen to what the United States is asking us to do. I'm certainly not going to listen to Israel, given their history of human rights abuse and the genocide they're committing in Gaza. So Australia at some point is being pushed to a limit, is being pushed to that red line that will say we cannot get involved in anything that you are suggesting that we get involved in. That, at the end of the day, may even mean that we have to withdraw from AUKUS. But at some point, we need to realise that strategically, militarily, the United States needs us as much as we, I suppose, need them, if at all. I'd be interested to know what any of you think about any of that. Please remember, to subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell for notifications. It doesn't cost you anything. I'll be interested in the comments and what you say below. Take care, everybody.